Whoa. Sir? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome to the meeting of the Stamford Planning Commission. If you have a matter to discuss that is not included on the agenda, you may do so by addressing the chairperson and stating your name and address. No? Okay,
I do.
you do.
I do.
Okay.
So,
You're addressing me, right?
I am addressing you.
No, not a stickler for yourself. I just never read this before, like clearly.
Right,
So you're addressing me.
I am. So the select board is working on, well, they're considering declassifying the last 0.3 miles of county road. From the National Forest Sucker Pond Trail to the Pownell line.
Okay?
They're considering going from the class 4 section that it is down to a legal trail. They've scheduled a site visit and a public hearing, and as planning commission, you guys received notice of that.
Okay.
So, the site visit, August 1st.
Guns of August. Maybe you read that book
What is it?
called Guns of August. No. It was August 1st.
What was the rationale? I didn't see anything on it.
I haven't seen anything yet.
The ATV people came with the thought that, they're trying to connect the Sucker Pond Trail over to Pownell Trails.
Okay?
But there's a hole in the middle. So, by making this part just a legal trail, we don't have to worry about maintaining it, upkeep. I mean, it's so bad now, it's just big.
Is that called what they call the sippy hole?
No.
Even
No,
beyond
that's-
that.
That's on the Whiskey Range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's just basically from the power lines.
From the
to
power
the
lines
town.
to Broad Road.
I know some of the young guys busted up my big 5-ton army truck, pulling somebody out of the.
It's already
So that's why I'm
basically-
asking.
Yeah, no, this
Trail.
goes off Whiskey Ranch.
Okay.
It's a Jeep trail right now, essentially.
Does it affect any town owners with camps?
National Forest owns on both sides of the road for the entire section, so they're the only ones being affected as a property.
Okay.
So nobody else is gonna be able to ride up there. We used to have Whiskey Ranch and it went around Klondike and right around Circle.
Yeah.
Then they went down county and got rid of everything.
Can't ride without a Basta sticker anyway, regardless.
Yeah. But we had it already set
I think
in because we set in with Wolford at the time.
Well, we have a heads up,
Residents
but
can't just ride anymore without a Basta.
my initial thought until I talked to a few other people is if it's not affecting owners of camps. And it may make it easier for the guys with the 4-wheelers and the ATVs, and I'm all for it. But that's me. But I'm just
Just a
one
month ago?
person.
Just a month ago, didn't they open up from County Road to Sucker Pond? The same deal?
That would have been the federal government, and I don't know as if they did.
No deal spots for no more.
Is there any potential for building on that spot I really don't know what we're talking about? But where's the closest house?
Major road investments. It's already a
But my question is, where's the closest house?
It's,
There's a camp at the end of County Road on the corner of like, Klondike and County. Just up Old County, I don't know, maybe 100 yards on the right.
That's a camp, but where's the closest house?
Closest house,
Yeah.
probably Susan Sarandon. Her property.
Are they talking about The trail that goes over the bank?
Yeah,
I thought they were talking about like all the way at the
Old
end.
County Road all the way through over.
Yeah, but we'd only be they're only declassifying
Point 3 miles.
Just
the
from-
end, where both West Road and
Or
Old
trail,
County.
whatever comes out, they're numbers now, it's like
Yeah.
on trail, it's right at the high tension line.
Right.
You go past Klondike on County,
I'm
maybe
familiar with what you're talking
half a
about.
mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile, whatever.
So what happens with the state in terms of if you declassify a town road to a trail, what authority does the state have over that?
I don't think it matters, yeah, whatever the hell they wanna do, I mean, I think it's just a matter of getting it off our table,
You
whether
can
or not
always
we
make
wanna
the
do it.
road
It
again.
either affects somebody or it doesn't, in my opinion. I get
Well,
what you're saying in terms of.
we're not doing anything with
This
it,
would be
so-
like the fourth legal trail, we have three already.
Yeah, let's keep this simple. If it's not affecting anybody with a camp or a house, and the guys who drive four-wheelers and side-by-sides, which I've always supported, if they're looking for this, seems to me it's a win-win. I mean, unless I hear other information that changes my mind.
I mean, I think it takes some cheaper, I mean, I haven't been over there in a long time, but I mean, it's basically a jeeper with some skills to get over the road at this point. It's
Yeah,
either
that,
road
that
or
top of that road is bad. I went over it about 2 weeks ago with the Trail Max that I have, and I was like,
Yeah, it's rough.
it's bad.
You know, I had
That's when
log
you get up,
trucks,
like,
I had log trucks all the way up to Sucker
Yeah.
Pond 25 years ago.
20 years ago, you could probably take a pickup over it, but it's just, it's got.
I went over it 5 years ago. So,
Well, let me get this on the record real quick, hold your thought. Let me just get this from the select board. So this is a message from the select board to the planning commission. Dear planning commission, the select board is considering the declassification of a portion of county road from class 4 to a legal trail. A public site inspection meeting has been scheduled to view the approximate 0.3 mile of county road beginning at the intersection of the National Forest Trail, number 301, Sucker Pond Trail and County Road, continuing along County Road westerly to the Pownell, Vermont town line. Since you are the interested party, formal notice is hereby given of the site inspection, which will be held on Thursday, August 1st, 2024 at 4:45 p.m., beginning at the Stamford Town Office, 986 Main Road, Stamford, Vermont. The select board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, August 1st at 5:30 at the town office concerning the approximate 0.3 mile of county road. If you have any questions, let us know. Nancy Mashika, chair of the select board.
Okay, so the, my understanding, because my right-of-way went all the way up to Sucker Pond. And what I call the Sucker Pond Road is right at the high tension,
Yeah,
and there's a road goes off to the right.
right. That's it, the trail 301.
There's nothing, I mean, and any campsite from there back.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing that I'm aware of, I mean, it's been a long time since
I thought that was actually the line in
is
the
it the road
pond.
going into Bennington, or is it going around Sucker Pond?
I think it's right at the end of Old County where, I'd have to see it, but I'm assuming it's at the top of West Road where it turns right to go to county. That section from there to the foot of the line.
The 0.3 miles starts at Sucker Pond Trail,
So
and it
it's,
goes west of the pond.
Right.
it's just county road. It's only county road from the Pownell line, 0.3 miles back to that Sucker Pond Trail.
So it's not the top
Oh,
of
so
West
it's
Road,
not-
it's out at the high tension where the road goes off to the
It's
right.
even farther.
Yeah.
And our road commissioner is in support of it because it removes his requirement to maintain water bars or maintain it in any way.
Has he been doing anything up there?
They've been doing stuff for years, Dave.
So my point, with that, how hard is it to bring it back to a class 4 once removed?
Already, it would be a major undertaking.
No, what I'm saying is, if you go to a trail,
Yeah.
would you have to survey to bring it back to a class 4?
You make it a legal trail, I believe, because you retain the right to do whatever you want with it.
You didn't answer my question though. What would it entail to bring it back to a class 4?
Way more money than we have.
So why would you want to give that up? You can use it now, right?
So the survey would be required when the road
Why?
parameters are undistinguishable.
It's not a
So
useful
you
road.
wouldn't need a
Why,
survey.
why don't you just go to the meeting on August 1st and get information from people who are gonna have more information than any of us in this room?
My
Closer
only-
to a river.
I agree with you, and my only point to bringing this up, I think there's questions that have to be answered.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of people don't
This
know.
isn't new, this started over a year and a half.
Yeah, so, hey, look, I bought trails, for people 20 years ago, and they let them go, and now they want them back, and, you know, I see the, ATVs going up the road, and UTVs 50 miles an hour by the dump, so.
Some of the roads we gave away, we also established legal trails, which I believe,
You gave away a lot of right of ways.
I didn't give away nothing.
No, the select board did.
Well,
We should never have.
the legal trails you can retain if you want them to use them in the future.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying.
So my question is, why can't you use them now?
we can.
For an ATV,
You
They're
can,
looking to
use-
bridge the gap, that's all.
they just wanna create a loop so they're right.
Yeah.
the loop's already there
It's
though.
not though, there's a gap in between Stamford and Pownell.
They get more funding, they get more
So
funding.
technically, if they ride that from the trail and the EPO is there, fine,
Okay,
it's not trail.
that's different.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Rescue Ranch doesn't create a loop anymore because, Powell sold their portion to National Forest and then they gave it.
You just brought up a point that makes sense, that it allows
Legal riding.
the state to find people on a section that's not true, right?
Well, they can do that all in the state, I mean, if you ride, when you come off by the pond and actually have to cross over the main road to get to the trail, you have a section that's allowed on that state highway, because technically there's no
Basically
ATVs.
allows,
If you're past that, like a smidgen, that state that lives right here can be like, bam, and take your own thing.
So if you're registered, you can drive wherever you want.
No,
no,
You can't,
not anymore. You used to be able to ride on class 4 roads regardless.
I'm talking about registered insurance and,
nope, the only way you can do that, there's only one loophole, and I'm not even gonna get onto it on the recording, because we don't need to hear all that
Okay.
stuff. But bottom line is, you have to be registered, insured, and have a VASA pass
Oh,
to
okay.
be able to ride the VASA
they want
trails.
to, okay.
Yeah, you
Yep.
can't just come from like Maine and be like, woo, I'm gonna rip the
Yep.
road, you know, cause
Yep.
cause they're up there, and they're pulling people over left and
Yep.
right, and they're just looking for your sticker, and they're looking for your insurance stuff.
Is it,
It's essentially
is
allows a lot of our
it
residents
mostly
to ride.
stadies or,
No, it's ATO.
huh?
I mean, there are some, sheriff's department guys that sometime are up
Yeah,
closer towards Reedsboro, but a lot of the EPOs and stuff like that, they'll sit right at the entrance to like Sucker Pond and stuff like that, and they're waiting for you to come up the road.
20 years ago, it was a lot of the, game wardens.
Yeah, we just don't have, and we don't have the Pownell stuff, like Pownell used to be able to ride, like you can ride an ATV, I don't, since that person got hurt or died, next to Stewart's a couple years ago,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if things have changed over there, I'm gonna pay attention because I don't ride over there, but they were the only ones that you could ride in Reedsboro, you can ride around certain areas, but it's like very specific.
I'm just saying, I think this is gonna be a fun meeting on August 1st.
I think it's a great thing,
Yeah.
it ends the loophole, it allows them to ride, they do maintain the trails, I think they take care of them, the people that ride them, the majority of the people.
Yes.
You've always got bad eggs, don't get me wrong, the ones that come down Main Road at 100 or go on Bill Road at 50, I mean, you're never gonna get rid of that. Okay, you can try like hell, but.
It's in a place too where it's not gonna affect the quality of life of certain people. Right. It's off.
I knew a young kid in his teens that had like 3 friends and they had motorcycles. And it was a state trooper lived in town by the name of Paul Kipp.
He is
Right?
involved again.
And he came to my house more than once to have a talk with my dad. Because we were ripping down the roads.
And they still do, and I mean, that's another
That's
discussion.
nothing new,
So,
been going on.
all right, let's, on to
Okay.
the next topic.
Okay, next thing, hearing of visitors.
I got another one. Don't do as I didn't come.
No, you got your 5 minutes.
Double visitor.
So I'm coming as a treasurer, asking you guys to approve payment of this bill. And the planning commission members that have been on the board for a couple of years will remember that a couple of years ago, the BCRC came and dangled the carrot and said, hey, we're doing this bylaw modernization grant. we don't know all the terms yet, but just sign up here and you'll get better grants, and I just kind of tried to show all these great things that we would get if we signed up. And then when we got to the nitty gritty that said you need to increase housing and, you know, the cards they didn't want to share initially,
Right.
the board chose not to change the bylaws ultimately. So our 10% match was not waived. So I received the bill for it this week, $909.07.
What was the 7 cents?
909.07, that would have been our 10% match that they would have waived. And they come out and say it would be waived if the municipality adopted zoning revisions that reflected the state's priorities for removing regulatory impediments to housing development. So all along, they knew they were pushing housing development,
Yeah.
but you never heard those words for the first year and a half of the grant.
Okay, so Lori, what are the ramifications if we tell them to go pound sand?
$900.
That's easy to do
$900.
that.
No, we just tell them we ain't paying it.
But
You just do it.
what's the
I did,
duration?
just like them.
we signed an agreement to proceed with this grant, the bylaw update. And then the more we got into it and found out what it was about, we chose not to change our bylaws. So,
We jostled around several things you can
No, I
change.
remember,
remember all that?
I thought we did change something so that we did avoid that.
No bylaw was
We
changed.
did. I don't think we ever accepted it.
You had to change one bylaw to
Yeah.
meet this.
Yeah, I
Or
thought we
could
did
change
that.
anything.
For example, not that you guys wanna do any of it, but you could go for 150 feet of road frontage to 125. Your one change.
Or change like,
Anything, I remember it was a very, one simple change
One little
would have.
change. I thought we did it.
We didn't do it, we're at the point now they want $900. And
And for how long? Again, what's the,
just a flat.
forever? If this
No,
is-
this is a one-shot deal. I think it's too late. We had our opportunity to move forward and we didn't.
Look, we have a 7-member board. You're smiling, you know where I'm going with this. I make a motion that we tell them to go pound sand.
Why?
Right?
Not pay.
Yeah. All those in favor?
politically correct?
No.
I put a motion
Do you have a
so
second?
that we refuse payment. Instead
It
of
depend on,
pound
if
sand.
that was Jim Sullivan who would do
I
it.
could have used the term
And
soul.
if that was Jim Sullivan, that's what you'd be saying to him, because he's the guy who did this.
You probably never got it.
I'm inviting Jim Sullivan to the conference we're gonna have in town.
Yeah.
I'm good buddies with him, but I'd tell him the same thing, but he wouldn't, you know,
He used the DCRC for a lot of things, I don't think. You know,
I-
we had a chance to use it, we should pay for it.
no, you're right.
Do we have a, do we have a
He's-
second or anything? We gotta finish here.
No,
We got a motion, do we have a second?
I'll jump on yours. No, yours is better.
I make a motion to pay the bill.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Let's just get it out.
Yeah.
So can I see who that I?
All those not in favor?
Let's just
No, I
get it
don't wanna
done.
pay the bill.
So who wants to put the little initials on here saying they're gonna pay?
What can they do to us if we just don't pay?
I mean, who knows? But then we gotta.
Next time you need a plan, next time you need help, next time you, everybody.
This is something, I was on the select board for 10 years,
Town
and this is
plan.
something that I learned. You push back, and you see how far they're gonna push back. If you don't push back, you don't know.
Keep
I
right
get it.
Do you understand?
I'm uneducated on what happened and transpired and the duration of what
So-
we
so
had,
my-
so-
I was part of that, we agreed with it, and then I was off the board.
My
We
point
didn't follow
is,
up and do what we were supposed to do.
if you-
Pay the bill.
if you don't push back, you don't know what the other side's gonna do.
Listen,
And
I
a
don't-
lot of
I don't
times you
disagree.
push back and they just fold.
Right.
They throw their cards down and they're like,
Hard to say.
and what do you got to lose?
Who was pushing for that $1,000?
Who was pushing for the $1,000?
900. I remember the vote and how it went down, and we were fighting, we didn't want to do it, and somebody said, we're gonna do it. And I'm looking at them right
I'm
there.
not the frickin' mayor in town, all right?
All right,
Dan,
well,
it's
it's already
you.
been voted on, it's already all set, let's move on.
Put
Cause
the
you
little
want
red
it.
tuck on here.
I'm not putting
Okay.
mine on there. You got, I didn't vote for it. You guys put your initials on it.
Vice Chair.
I signed worse things.
And you left them out.
Yep, you get that. You just want my name on here? Anywhere specific?
Right out
I don't really care.
Just put a okay, either very much. Say it again.
the last meeting we did.
All we got is a word, and that's no good, what do you got?
I don't have one anymore. Do you have extra one?
Does everybody need to sign
I
this?
don't know. Tom,
The bear?
I'll make
I
sure.
think it was,
Did you get my email?
I would never show you.
You got that email?
The princes have all the funds. Just remember that.
I have a copy.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have any more visitors who want to speak?
I'm done.
You sure?
Yep, for
Stay
now.
there.
No,
Okay, so hearing and approval of records,
Send 3 emails.
regular meeting minutes of June 3rd.
Email me.
Everybody check out the meeting, the minutes?
Just send me something so I know that we can connect.
I'm gonna ask if, anybody has any objections. I make a motion to approve them. Anybody who was here at the last meeting can approve it.
You were not here.
I was not here.
You were not here. And I wrote the minutes, so I feel like I should approve.
yeah, okay.
So one of you two has to second the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay,
I wasn't here.
minutes are approved.
Lori, how do I write that?
you can vote, right?
Did you get a
I
first
don't
and a
think she can
second?
vote. She
So
can
I
stay
can't
if
say
she
all
wants.
approved, right?
I don't.
Oh.
How do I write that one?
No, you can't, if you're not
It
here.
won't
you
pass
really
if you
can't.
don't have four.
So you do have 4 though.
So can I? you
Did
can-
4 vote?
Yeah, you
I
can.
didn't vote.
You can vote.
You can
Because
vote.
I wrote them, I was.
You can vote.
Okay.
You can vote. So you would say, Dan made the motion, Aldi seconded it,
Yep.
4. You're gonna say 4 yeses, and then you're gonna say, what's left, 3?
3, 1, and
Abstain.
3 abstained, were not present.
Thank you.
Okay, so now it's
That
discussion.
looks like my sweater you're making over there.
Mighty tiny, isn't it?
Not just right.
Be a nice hat, huh?
You got another grandchild coming?
I got 2.
Really?
I got 2 coming.
What is it?
A baby sweater.
twins?
For grandma.
No, I got 2 different kids.
Oh, okay.
One's in due in August and one in November.
Wonderful.
Alright, what do you have for the
Open
new laws
meeting law.
recently passed?
Okay, well, the first one is
Enlighten us.
open meeting law. I don't know if everyone saw that, just, and I'm glad Lori is at today's meeting. From what I can discern from attending like legal stuff on the CRP, getting over the laws, the planning commission is considered non-advisory, even though we 99% of the time we advise. But because we vote on things like the lot division, for example, we're considered non-advisory. And therefore, the rules apply to us that we have to have a recording, which we do, and it has to be digitally, put on. Did you talk about this already, Lori? Are you gonna put it on the website, or?
I have not talked to the select board
Right.
yet, but I think it needs to go on the website. I think that's the new requirement.
Yeah, and so it needs to be posted, I would say just put it right next to the minutes there. And it needs to be posted for 30 days after we say these are minutes are approved. So the minutes we just approved can go on 30 days from now, but the advice is to sort of get it on as soon as possible.
Okay.
So, and then it has to stay up for 30 days after our next meeting. So we meet the next first Monday in August, and this reporting will stay up for 30 days after that. But that's sort of for something between Lori and me, so we don't really worry about it. We also have to, provide, always have to have an in-person meeting, which isn't such a problem because COVID, it was a bigger deal then. We also have to have a remote option for people, whether it's, just a telephone, or something like that. I'm not sure if we have any other electronic, but, we also have to put on the webpage, again, Lori will be doing this probably, the explanation of the open meeting law, how you can make a complaint if the open meeting law wasn't followed properly, etc. That all needs to go on the webpage. But again, I don't think this board needs to just be aware of it. Next one, Act 250, that also, the Act 250 change, the changes to Act 250 passed were, they overrode the veto by the governor. And we talked about these last meeting, so I talked with Janet Hurley from BCRC, and she also agrees that we probably won't be a tier 1 town. We could, because I guess we do have a village designation. I wasn't sure if we did. But she's thinking because we don't have the staffing, you have to have X amount of staffing, and we don't have that. Yeah, I know. So she really doesn't think we'll be a tier 1. So to me, that puts us at tier 2, which keeps us the same old Act 250, or tier 3, which goes into protecting natural resources.
And that only like the 2060 or something like that.
That's something else.
Have they made the maps yet? They haven't determined?
No, they haven't done the land use maps yet.
Tier 3 is the one that scares me.
Right.
Because when they start talking about natural resources, you're going to take the rest of your rivers, your water, and your farmland.
What do you
Well,
think the chances of that are, seeing how we're like 55% national forest?
Right.
Very good.
They're gonna protect the.
Very good.
Is there?
Yeah.
It'll be more
All
protection.
They already have it.
And this is what I was talking about earlier, is at some point, you gotta push back. And if nobody pushes back, they just keep taking. I'm all about pushing back, I always have been in this town. And then I wanna see what the other guy's gonna do. Okay, you gonna bring in the big guns? You gonna bring in lawyers and sue us? Okay, maybe we gotta take a step back. But I wanna see what you're gonna do.
Well, they're gonna draw the maps, and it's gonna take a couple of years, Dan, for them to get all they're gonna decide kind of who's in which tier.
And what did
We
you
don't
say
really
you
want
thought
one either.
we were gonna be
We're
at?
gonna mostly be in the tier 3, I believe, which is where they'll protect our natural resources. So,
What's one, like more development,
pardon?
high density development within the
Right,
center?
yes.
City water, sewer.
Yeah, that's the stipulation.
Well, we don't have to have, we just have to be, we have to have, they call it adequate soil, so they changed it from having to have town water and septic to adequate soil.
Well, I'm talking about they're concentrating more development in already established areas with
Right,
municipal
yes.
waters.
Yeah,
People that do not.
right.
Fly over Europe, you wanna see what the future is for us.
Which country?
I've flown over all of them the last 2 years. You got enclaves that you can spit to your neighbor's house. And then the rest is all farmland and whatnot.
It's been that way for a while.
Crunch us all into a little frickin' zone. And the natural resources, I know the natural, I said it here at this board and at the select board meetings. Natural resources they want in Stamford is the uranium up there by Sucker Pond.
Well, the BCRC has till 12/31/26 to write their new plan, their regional plan. So we have until then to really see what they're gonna do.
2 years, time flies so fast, holy cow.
Also, there's new flood disclosures, so people who are selling in high-risk areas, have to disclose that now more, they made more laws about that. And Laura, you might know more about the second home tax rate. I wasn't sure exactly if that meant when you're purchasing your second home, or do they get a higher tax rate all together?
I'm not sure if that has to do with the transfer tax when you're buying,
Right.
as opposed to any property taxes. I think
wasn't
that's what they're changing.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, there were a lot of clerks going back and forth trying to figure out what that meant, and there hasn't been a firm explanation for us to know.
Just a clarification on what you're talking about. In Vermont, under real estate law, you did not have to disclose if you had any water issues. So when you were selling, you never had to disclose.
I'm not sure it was before, but I know now they're making it seem different.
No, I'm telling you,
Oh,
now
okay.
they changed the law, and now you have to disclose it. You always had to disclose it in Massachusetts. Well, in Vermont, you could sell a property that's been flooded, like just about this whole town, and not disclose that it was flooded. They changed it.
Disclose a lot of things.
Right.
Now they have to, which they should anyway. They
Yeah.
should be ashamed to not disclose things like that.
Yeah.
But that's not for me, so anyways.
Or even if you're in the threat of being, like, even if you've
You're
never
in the river,
been.
you're in the river corridor.
Yeah.
Yes.
This whole town's made.
Nathan, you're
If
aware
you
of
need
it.
flooded.
This whole town is not in the river corridor. You have rocks on your head. Years ago, frickin' people used to bring in bulldozers.
Dave, don't holler at me.
and-
You wanna
and
talk,
clear-
talk.
and
Lower
clear-
your
and
voice.
Clear the river
Lower
out.
your voice.
Don't tell me how to
scream.
talk, all right?
Don't scream it, boy. You wanna holler at them, go ahead, but don't scream at me.
They clear the brook out with a bulldozer, and then the water didn't come into your yards. Then the state took over the rivers and created these river corridors. It's a bunch of bullshit.
It is, but they've got it.
No, but we don't have to keep giving them more and more and more. That's my point. I'm not yelling at you in particular. I'm yelling at the whole frickin' situation. We don't have to keep giving them frickin' ground.
Listen, I agree, and I said a long time ago, why is this town allowing Green Mountain Forest to buy our lands and get $150 an acre in taxes? So we get 30 grand a year on the 12,000 acres when we should be getting a $500,000. Why did this town allow that? Who's behind that? Because people couldn't afford to pay the taxes?
No, because the planning commission, when I first joined, was passing laws so nobody up in the forest zone could even build a frickin' camp. And so you're gonna just pay taxes on it forever and you can't do anything? Because this board passed the frickin' laws.
You and I worked on that to change that.
You were not on the board when I
No,
first
you
joined.
and I worked on that to change that.
Right, but it was, the damage was already done. Patton sold off all his lands because nobody could do anything.
What happened to the land that North Adams just sold off?
They can't do anything on it.
Why? Because North Adams owned it, we were getting good taxes for it, they sent it to land of public trust, and then the board voted and let the Green Mountain take it. More land that should never went, right?
Yeah, it's all water over the dam now.
Oh yeah, last year, you're talking 20 years, I'm talking about,
Where we're at now. People now in town, you own land in the forest zone, you can build a cabin. You can even put in a,
You build a house.
no, you can build a, or you can have a,
I can't build anything.
There's no more conditional.
no, but you can even now, you don't even need a septic system, you can have a what?
You
What's
can
it
have a
called?
composting.
Composting
Yeah.
toilet.
In the village?
In the forest service.
That's pretty much everywhere in Vermont, I think. I think you can pretty much have one anywhere.
So we did accomplish some good things, but it was,
Me too.
the town was already,
still a lot of acres that could be gone to those guys, and they, like you said, they keep buying more and more and more.
I mean, the forest was essentially about as open as it's gonna get a few years ago, when we removed the conditional use, process to the building in the forest.
yeah,
It's just a regular permitted process now.
yeah, good.
No one-
I like to see people doing stuff.
As long as we don't give stuff
You don't
to the
lose,
state.
you don't use it, you lose it.
Okay,
That's the old saying.
Land, I mean, it's gonna sell, it's already selling up that way. Up, if you're talking West Road, Klondike Road,
It's selling?
yeah.
Good.
People are trying to buy land around here, I get, notices every day from 48, I don't,
It's coming, I've been saying it for 4 or 5 years. It's
3
coming.
times what I paid for it. What do they want?
I mean, the high speed
Get out of
internet,
the
as
cities.
much as it's a great thing, was probably the end game as far as people, a lot of people moving to town, looking for land. Because they can, you can work in Manhattan, live right here in Stamford, right now.
There's 3 rivers running through it, why do they want it?
They don't know what they're buying.
No, I don't think so, I think with the GPS, you can see just about anything.
Yeah, well, they're buying, and they're coming.
And they are coming. Yeah.
Well, they tax them.
Makes it
Anyway,
challenging,
what were
doesn't
we
it?
talking about? Before Dan started screaming at it.
People like yelling at you. Don't take it personally.
So bottom line is,
Yeah, neighbor.
possibly due to be classified into tier 3, but we're not gonna know that till 2026.
The end of it.
2026.
Right.
I'm sure there'll be more information forthcoming over
Yes.
the next couple of
Yeah.
years.
You'll slip
Well, you
in
see,
the
I wanna
water.
ask or find out, I think there's an end date for the village center designation,
Yeah, it's 7:30.
30, okay.
Who handles that? Us or just?
I mean, you just let it expire unless, so there's gotta be a process.
Who is that though? Is that planning commission?
That's the planning commission through the, Pennington County Regional Commission. All that was set up through that.
It's nice to have a few people that know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to keep that.
And that,
Why you know that
there
voter
is,
nature,
there is
I don't know.
grants available with that, especially for historic structures. For example, if the town was to buy a property in the center of town and wanted to renovate it, there would be substantial funds and grants available to do that. For that, you know, the school, I've mentioned this, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, there may be some grants that the school could benefit from. It's right here in the village center district, so there's gotta be stuff out there, I just don't have the time to research grants and all this stuff, but there's money available because of that designation.
Are we on the flood safety or the active?
Oh, we touched the flood and safety, well, you kind of touched that a little bit, but.
I think I touched on it.
Bulldozers, gentlemen.
We skipped over the renewable energy
Yeah.
standard. Let's just do that quickly. Again, it's just to repeat myself. 100% renewable by Vermont by 2035. And moving in-state energy coming from within Vermont from 10% to 20%. So they've really moved the goalpost for that.
Does the renewable energy include wood or no?
No, but not for individuals. The biomass is not going to be enough for like corporations like Green Mountain Power. That doesn't mean Dan Poppin. It means Green Mountain Power or,
Yeah, you're
So these generating electric plants that use chips to make electricity, they're no longer gonna be able to use wood chips.
oh, wood chips, okay. I think they're,
Wood of any kind.
at least I know they're not gonna
Probably.
be making more. They're not
probably only at about 1 or 2% now, right? What's the percentage?
I don't know, we used to
Energy.
ship it to everybody in the Northeast.
It'd be hard, I mean, I don't know how they could possibly imagine removing it from home heating fuel in the Northeast.
I think that's a whole different question.
I just don't think that's possible.
I hope you guys are right.
Mini splits won't go as far north, so that's not the technology that's gonna work. That's
Yeah, we're not talking about individuals here, we're
Thank you.
talking about.
By the way.
I'll really get fired up right here, you know, the state's more likely to
Oh,
add,
when you get fired up.
the
Right.
state's more likely to add debris to the stream than they are to put a bulldozer in it for trout habitat.
They're more likely to what?
Add debris, add wood, logs, things of that nature.
Agree?
For what, so I come through and wipe out the population
Yeah,
again?
that's
There's not a native
That's-
fish in this whole
the way-
state.
That's the way the trends are going.
There's some native.
There's native trout, there's native brook.
I know, I
Got
got
some big boys up there by Sherman Dam.
Yeah. Right,
When I was a kid,
it's a radioactivity.
no, and I don't wanna take up time here, but this is important, because when I was a kid, I used to fish the brooks. I used to catch more native trout in East Brooks, County Road, even Basin Road. And tell me, Sally, you'll remember, what did in the summertime when it got hot and dry and everything was dusty, what did the town road bus spray on the roads? Oil. Used motor oil.
Yeah,
And I'm
weigh it down. Yeah.
that's a fact. And there were more trout back then. Now there's nothing there unless they stock it.
The main
So,
problem
so
with
what
the
the hell's
trout,
happened? Back then there were sewers going in the brooks.
the main problem with the trout is they don't have any genetic diversity anymore because they've been shut off from all the dams and the towns. There's no genetic diversity getting up for the fish to breed from, so they're basically
Plus those critters
interbreeding.
were all blown out.
Like,
Right.
they went from like this
Yeah.
to like triple the
Right.
size, and so the water level went from this
Down
down
there.
to this. And like, they're just, the only way they're coming downstream is if there's a massive.
You used to have a lot of beaver
Rainstorms.
dams.
Yeah.
Well, have a lot of beaver dams, and that produced a trout, and they would get into the brooks. That's what I call it.
Trust me, I fished on every brook known to man around here, and they're just not there. I mean, I find some small ones, some small browns.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta go down towards Clarksburg to even get the rainbows and the bigger browns.
There's a big move by now for,
No.
there's like a big clean bowl, big old trying to reconnect,
But
you
they're-
know, all these streams.
But they're 18,
The long-
20 inch
long-
long rainbow trout, they've been there for years, you know, they've
Oh, yeah.
been in like, I'll fish at the top of the, you know where the big dam is, where Route 8 meets Route 2?
Yeah.
That big dam that hits the flood chute, if you go up to the little dam right behind those row houses, there's a huge sinkhole in there, right at the bottom of that dam. And there are some monsters in there, and those babies have been
They're
there
like the bottom of the
for
page.
years.
Hey,
They
Aldi,
don't know.
Aldi, isn't he breaking all the rules? Like, you never tell people the best fishing spots or the best
I wouldn't
hunting
say it's the
spots.
best fishing
That's
spot,
the
just
second
saying
best
that.
fishing spot.
Aldi already knows.
So there'll be more investigation on this stream up here by Trout Unlimited in the near future, because they're already worried about the main stem of the Hoosic and the south branch of the Hoosic becoming too warm. It's gonna be carp country in the next 10 years.
So you think me and my son are gonna be able to just march up through town with our chainsaws and drop trees in the
I
road?
mean, you'd have to get rid of all the dams, which would be like in our lifetime, for people to get it. Unless there's a massive movement to just get rid of dams.
Nothing.
Be hard
I
to
used to fish up through here by the Harborville Lodge.
Well, it's part of the fun thing, right?
Well, 2035 doesn't scare me, because that's like so far off.
Yeah.
Fly fishing, there's nothing there.
I think that's.
Anyway.
I think it's gonna tie in the renewable energy thing, I think it's gonna tie in with the land development maps when they make them. So I think those two things to watch together, that's just my own take on it.
Well, in between now and then, they can do anything to those rules.
So as far as high density population in Stamford, like it or not, there's a safeguard built in as far as sewer and water goes. Be hard to get around that.
I haven't made it a toxic septic that was going into the river.
Illicit discharge.
I removed the threat.
I would venture to guess it's not the only one along the
Two straight pipe right to the river. When I dug it up,
Bunch of houses in there.
straight into the river.
Oh, yeah.
There was no beds, it wasn't going into the corner of the yard,
Oh, yeah.
straight into the river. It's like, wow. That was a good one. Anyway,
Okay, Act 250 reform bill.
I did that.
we did that.
Okay, flood safety act.
Kurt, you seem to know more about this than me, so.
The Flood Safety Act?
Mm.
Not really, I
Okay,
don't
you
think.
brought up last. So they're gonna do some river corridor protections. They're gonna be making new maps again for 2026. They're gonna have state regulations to keep development, the new developments out of harm's way. That's the way they put it. So if they make the maps where not to build, and allow, space for the rivers to overflow and the river to move, the water to move,
So they're gonna take over, they're looking to take over wetlands.
wetlands, yes.
State's gonna take over all water,
Right, which is my next thing,
So
wetland
it's gonna take
protections,
over
they're gonna do wetland mapping,
all water.
which is, it's either to protect the wetlands we have or actually increase them.
Include in your wells, and you're gonna be paid, you're gonna have to pay through your well water.
I wouldn't doubt at some point they're trying to.
They're doing it in other states now.
Side the system. I mean, the town doesn't necessarily need sewer in water, it need one or the other.
I don't know
They'll
if they
try
can
to
do
jam it
that,
down
man.
our
If you
throat at
think
some
about
point, guaranteed.
If they went in and tried to regulate your well, think about how much money that would cost them to, because they'd be responsible for cleaning it and maintaining it. If you're gonna pay for it, that means they take ownership of said water that's coming through there, which in return, they will have to monitor, they will have to hire people to do that, they will have to, I mean, it would be an astronomical amount.
I
of
know,
money.
but my point is, they're doing it in other states.
System probably.
Would
when they
It's
lay
not
it.
happening here
There
yet.
have to be multiple plants, I mean.
My gravity feed spring, they'll say, we own it, you pay us X amount per gallon, there's a meter in your house now.
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
but they're taking.
Yeah, but there's no,
I just find that one hard.
Wouldn't they lay pipe and everything for, if they put it in town water?
I mean, so many
Oh, it
people
would be a
are
major
in shallow
infrastructure.
wells.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
nothing
a lot of
wrong
people
with
don't
it.
even have, the deep wells
I don't think they
anymore.
utilize our wells.
I don't even think you can have a shallow well.
They
Oh,
have
yeah,
to pay for the whole thing and then.
I have a
basically-
15-foot shallow well.
No, I'm saying new construction, I don't think you can put.
Oh, yeah.
The banks are restricted, but you still can do it. It's the banks.
Now, I think in New Hampshire it's more
Yeah,
restricted.
about it.
Okay, they give you
So
specs, if
there's
you're
no-
putting in a shallow well, they give you specs you gotta follow, which are, I've heard them, they're crazy. They don't
Knock
even,
on wood, I'm on a main vein, so even when we're droughty,
yeah.
I'm flowing.
My house, my well could feed 10 houses.
Insane.
Lawrence's well up there on the mountain,
I don't know.
that feeds the golf course, that could feed 3/4 of the town. I've seen that well when I was little.
There's some houses attached to that.
Huh?
Is there some houses along the lane attached to that now?
Yeah, but I'm telling you, that is the spring of all springs.
Alright, let's get on to any old.
The last thing is how dams, like dam safety, they wanna take the maintenance and inspection and whatnot of dams away from municipalities. I'm not an expert on this at all. But, and turn it over to the Department of Environmental Conservation, so it would become more of a, right, am I right on this? More state monitored as opposed to locally monitored, which I know Dan's not gonna like that.
Yeah, but we don't have any dams in town. Right now, I can only focus on Stamford, I can't focus on the whole state.
And the emergency planning will go from municipalities more to the state, ECRs, the region.
Emergency planning,
Pardon?
that part of it, emergency planning?
Like regional planning as opposed to local planning.
Yeah, but we're working around that anyway.
So like,
Okay, old business, anybody?
I'd like to, chat about, that letter you sent out for emergency management. And I was doing some thought about it. 2 weeks ago, my power went down again. I've had a generator for years, and I physically go out and turn it on. But I thought, as a board, either the select board or this board, the benefit this town would have is if we help sponsor through the state, people to get generators powered by propane, so that every house has one, so that in an emergency, everybody would have power. And that's something the state would help fund. They take about $1.5 million, like calculated it out. The state would pay 80% of it, and the town would have to come up, you wouldn't be able to buy, trucks a day 1 year maybe. But I think that's something, to your point, it gives you water, it gives you emergency power, it gives you heat. If everybody had a generator, that would solve a lot
Are
of
you
problems.
talking about a whole home generator?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about?
I'm talking about a Generac,
So-
10,000 watt generator.
Yeah, cause it's about 15 grand a piece.
No.
Full installed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Paul Lewis just did it, I mean, I researched it for about 6 months, because when we had all that stuff went out, I was getting sick of going out,
You-
and ripping my generator.
You
being
could be
able-
right, but my brother installs them and he's not getting that kind of money. But things have changed and I've been out of it. These electricians,
Went from
hundreds
soup,
of
soup to nuts, so if you don't have somebody in your family or your buddy doing a solid, like Paul had just had the regular, he didn't get a Generac, he got, Kohler, and he put it in, he had to have the propane run, the electrician, the whole
Oh, yeah.
shebang. It was between 13 and 15,000, his was on the higher end because he went with a little bit of a bigger tank for propane. My thing is, listen, I'd be all for it. If the town's gonna pay for me to get a
It
generator,
doesn't probably
power of
maybe
it.
state contractors too, probably.
15 grand, so at least you have a number. I think you probably, with the amount we're talking about, you could probably get it for less.
Cheaper, yeah, I would assume if you bought.
So if the state's willing to give 80% on 10 grand, 8,000, and the town has to come up, or the people have to come up with a couple $1,000, It's a critical thing. We lose power here more than anything else. We lose power. This is something this committee can do. We can make a difference in this town. To your point, Dan. To your point, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying, and if you can come up with this numbers that the state's gonna pay 80%, I'll be willing to listen. I have a hard time thinking they'll pay squat. Our state is broke, the federal government's broke. I'm trying to get people that
How's that?
There any leads on this, or?
I've been looking at stuff. Nobody's initiated a program like this. It's just like when we bought in broadband 25 years ago, nobody even heard of it, we brought it in and made it happen. That's why we have high-speed internet today. I just got the idea from Dan saying, hey, emergency, let's, see this, that, and I said, what's the most important thing we can do for people in this town? And that's for them to have power.
Okay, so here's where you and I are gonna differ, Dave. I'm not looking to do stuff for people. I'm looking to get people to do stuff for themselves. Okay? That's a difference.
That's fine.
It's like, I've given all the information out. You wanna follow it? You wanna have a water filter? You wanna get a pump so you can draw water out of your drilled well? You wanna
I think he's just saying your ideas gave him the thought for this.
Yeah, I know, but I don't like to go to where.
I think it's something that we should definitely discuss. I think it'd be nice to have some.
Especially for
information
older
on it.
people who can't
I mean,
spend for
I'm
themselves.
not worried about myself at this age, at 45, I could pretty much.
I have a generator, I go down and do it.
46, but, like Dottie across the street, like,
Yeah.
if the power goes out, like,
Yeah.
I'm there trying to
Yeah.
make sure, and I just wanna make sure
Your
somebody
neighbor's
like
taken
her
care of.
is taken care of and is better, and if that benefits the whole town in a
Yeah.
one lump sum of frickin' street, because the
Yeah.
state's gonna give you free
Yeah, we
anything.
need information,
Yeah.
something every year.
I mean, we can
No,
all,
I'm
we
with
can
you.
all be more resilient in one way or another, and it's good that everyone's wheels are spinning.
Okay,
Everyone's wheels
I'm
are
hearing
spinning.
you all, and if the state would fund a big portion of it,
Well, I'm with you there too, but.
right?
And maybe the federal government, it might not just be the state. There's always water, there's always money available. Now that I've tricked your brain, I'm sure it'll be coming
It's
up.
always funny, but it's an interesting concept, for sure.
But this ain't what.
Oh, yeah, what do we got, 300 homes? How many homes do we have in the
The
city?
other thing I think about,
How many homes? No, that's easy, right?
okay? The other thing I think about,
340.
I've had 2 practice
It's
runs.
gonna happen in my son, my 3-year-old's like that. Right, but it's just.
I think Sally.
Rick can't even, they live in California. They've got so many people that.
Dan, so there's 340 homes, probably half the people are gonna get generators.
Yeah. Gentlemen.
They're trying to tax them per mile that they drive.
Gentlemen, so in 2000, right? And I built my house in 1998. I just want to share with you, I've had 2 runs without power. 2 months in the middle of the winter. First was January 1st, 2020. For some reason, all my transformers at the sawmill blew. Okay? That was Y2K. Everybody was preparing for it.
Yeah.
But my house was built, everything was in place. But my power came through the sawmill. So all those transformers, I was without power for January and February. Okay? My house ran like a top. Okay? February 11th, 2012, the sawmill burned down. I lost all my transformers. I was without power for 2 weeks in February and the full month of March. So I've had 2 practice runs in the wintertime. Okay, what I put on my sheet it gives you resilience without here's the way I think. I don't have solar. I don't have a generator that runs on propane. Okay? Because if things are really critical, you ain't gonna be able to get propane. You ain't gonna get gas. You ain't gonna get diesel fuel. Right, so if you go back and you read my letter, I gave everybody the means. You live next to a brook, everybody's got a brook next to their house. You can go grab 5 gallons of water a day, dump it through the filter. Although I'll tell you, because my sister tried to buy one last week, they're already sold out. Okay? And that was the top of the line filter. You can pour it through the filter and you can drink that. You can only survive 3 days without water. You can go 30 days without food. And with a lot of blankets, and if you have a wood stove in your house, you can survive the winter. Okay, you're just gonna go to bed earlier because you don't have a light. But and then no, because I always look at the worst case scenario, and then I work back from that. Okay, so I do have a generator. That's how I built my house. It's 25,000 K generator. Runs off the PTO of my tractor. Okay, that's how I built my house because I didn't have any power. So all the guys building my place, 25,000 kW, boom. Back then I only paid like $3 grand for it. It's a wind code. They may go up to 100 kW. But if I don't have diesel, I'm screwed. Right? That's why when I built my house, I put in a gravity feed well, I got a gravity septic, I got root cellars in the basement. It's like I have everything. And I know not everybody was thinking about that 30 years ago, but I was, okay? Now we're here in this time. And my letter was to try to spur people to find ways, simple ways, like a water filter. Right? I can go to a stagnant pond, pour that through. Right? And if there's a nuke goes off in Pittsfield at General Dynamics or Raytheon, it is going to take out the radioactive particles. Right? And it works for 6,000 gallons. So figure out your household. Right? Where I'm living right now, I mean, I'm living with my mom, that's going to last for like 8 years. Half a gallon a day, you got to drink, maybe. But with that pump that the Amish make, I mean, most people's wells, my brother-in-law told me his water level is up like 40 feet from the top of his drilled well. That pump will pull water up from 125 feet. You just screw it on the top of your well and you pump it. You don't even have to filter it because that water's right, even radiation, by the time it gets, even my 15-foot well, right? By the time that water gets to where the water's coming up, it's filtrated. So the radiation particles aren't going to bother. Okay?
My only point about trying to ever, Dan, is that with a 100-gallon tank, if you have a snowstorm and people are stranded for 2 weeks, you couldn't get to anybody, that will heat the house for a week. My propane tank will last a month. But that 2 or 3 weeks that thing will run and power the people,
I
that's
agree.
huge.
Two different
It
situations.
allows you to get.
I agree with you, Dave. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point you make.
I think we
We
should
could
get
do
more
both.
information, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more information.
Yep, okay.
Okay, so onto this, under new business, onto this, conference I'm trying to pull together. I've got all the speakers on the list. Jim Sullivan's the first one on the list. Okay, because him and I hit it off on this issue, self-sufficiency and resilience. Okay, so it's gonna be hard pressed. I got like 8 people to talk, they're gonna have 15 minutes to talk, and then it'll be like a conference. So each person who talks will have 15 minutes to talk, and then they'll have a table, okay? And then people throughout the afternoon, you go to this one's table who's doing seed saving, this one who's solar, this one who's, right?
Yep.
It's gonna be a hard thing to pull together with these people. I know all these people, right? I got an emergency guy, I've got a solar guy, I've got no seeds guy. You gave me up the road, you said she did Bobowick. I saw her in the store 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, I haven't seen her in years, and I talked to her, and she's like, the person you want is Paul Tipp. My old state trooper. Right? No, this is great.
You have a date in mind or anything?
Huh?
Do you have a date or a time?
No, I gotta start, what I'm getting at is, I'm looking for a few hands to help me with this. I mean, I've put on conferences before, but, you know, I've gotta pull everybody together, and the biggest thing is gonna be promoting it, right? But to get these people from different states and stuff, all in one afternoon on a Saturday, I'm thinking a Saturday,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's gonna be a tough nut to crack,
Are you thinking here at the Stamford School gym or bigger?
the gym.
What were you thinking?
Well, it's a groundbreaking conference, why wouldn't they wanna be here?
August,
What's that?
August.
August.
Well, I know I'm a big draw, and I'm friends with these people,
No,
so.
This is a great idea, I think the concept of this has just got people.
No, and
it's
this
got
would be
people's
the
brains
first
moving.
one and then build on it.
Exactly, like the old
Right?
craft fair used to be, but only Lori used to want craft, so.
Right, because a conference like this, it really should be called a workshop, but you could have 20 speakers speaking on 30 different topics.
Absolutely.
It's such a big, broad case. I'm just trying to bring in the nuts and bolts for the first one.
Topics are endless, anywhere from, green products to survival to resilience to,
Yeah.
all that, it's all like rolled into one. This would be a good thing.
I'm gonna do the heating one.
Dan, on a different topic, did you ever talk to your friend about the overshadowing? I know you used someone,
I haven't got to him yet.
okay, can we put that on the agenda for next meeting? Because I still am concerned about that subdivision we did, and I have a question for like people that have been on the planning commission, like, I don't understand as a new member why Deb can make it divided into 2 lots, but it took us to make 3, but yet we had no choice but to say yes, then why is that?
I disagree with that completely.
Doesn't make
I
sense
think we hastily voted those lots in without really understanding. It clearly states, I have a statute that whenever you subdivide a subdivision and there's septic and water, it has to go before the planning commission. It didn't,
Which
It-
brings me to the
it
question.
didn't, we didn't know what the guy's building, we didn't know anything.
Well, like another question I have, and again, it's for people that have been on the planning commission, it's like, there's that question 5, and it wants a whole outline of not just the buildings now, but future buildings and whatnot. We were told not to consider those, but I'm wondering if we need to.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know, and I wanna know why it goes to us to make it 3, when we just have to say the same thing Deb's gonna say to 2. Then why can't Deb just do the 3? Like, why is that built in? Can anyone answer that?
That I can answer. John Duper was on the board at the time and was looking at that and felt we have 1 lot. If you're gonna divide it into a second lot, that's fine for our ZA to approve, but he felt 3 or more should have more than 1 head thinking about roads and emergency and whatever
But
else
we
might go
didn't
in.
consider any of that, we only were told
No,
to
we
follow
voted.
the bylaws that says you can,
But
period, that was the end
If
of
you
the
read the
discussion.
bylaw part, it says this is an approved permittable action. So if it's allowed, you have to allow it, it's just that she doesn't have the authority to say yes. It's not in one of the other conditional uses where it's a maybe. Where it fell into, if you look in your bylaws, is permittable uses.
But it's still open
Let's
for
bring up
review.
a site plan review.
It's still open for review. I understand what you're saying.
Well, that's
Like, what you're saying is you don't.
well, I
Planning
guess,
commission can say no.
that's
The
what
planning
was given
commission
to
can
me
say
by
anything
Deb.
they want, but when it
But
comes
then
to
it
septic, the
doesn't make
state
sense
rules.
to me.
I think
Of
3
course.
lots might require a site plan review, which then they
Right.
would have to submit a 10 or 15 step
Yes.
process that this is what they want to do up there, this is what they intend on doing.
I'll
Because
check
you'd
with the
have to
fella
actually
in town.
have
who's
to-
in
Right.
it.
You're right in the bylaws.
I think that was a patent subdivision, and there was all kinds of stipulations put on that. Because those subdivisions are all over town, people are trying to subdivide a subdivision, when roads were supposed to be put in, this town opted to stay away from a lot of that, like up on, the road up behind me, because they didn't follow through with what they were supposed to do. And we don't want the town putting the roads in, right?
Depending on your perspective, LaSure Road is a place that could be highly developed.
I understand that,
With private road activity.
yeah.
So depending on your flavor, if they're very narrow, very low road frontage, Dan, you're talking maybe a couple hundred feet road frontage, but there's 30 acres a lot.
Yeah, they're
So
big
the
lots.
only way to access those is to put a
So what
road
about the
along
guy
it.
that owns the lot next to it that doesn't build, and the guy next to him puts 3 houses in, now he can't use his lot because it's only 200 feet wide, and it's downhill, so the shit's rolling down into his yard, right?
You don't understand anything about septic systems.
Who doesn't?
You don't.
Dan, I was putting them in when you were in diapers and clouds.
Yeah.
I put your septic system in.
You're full of shit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, Dan,
Jesus.
remember
John
the
Lewis is one of the best engineers
I
in the
don't
area.
care, Dan. I
You
work
don't
for
care,
Sep-
I know you don't care.
I work for
That's why you
septic
wanted to
company.
put in a water system for the town, because you don't understand that people's shallow wells are polluted because they don't keep their
Whoever said
tops
they
on.
wanted to put a
You
water
talked
system
about
in?
that 10 years ago.
Dan, I talked about taking advantage of the water system that North Adams was using.
Look
We
at,
gave it away though.
look at. You put in a state-approved septic system, you can have a shallow well within 150 feet of that, and it's not gonna pollute it. That's how tight the systems are now. So you don't know what you're talking about. I do. I deal with this stuff all the time.
So I'm glad you're an expert, Dan, but I'm gonna tell you something. If I owned 30 acres of land and I wanted to build a house, and somebody put 3 septic systems near my boundary line, near my water, I don't give a shit what you say.
So
I'd be against it.
LaSure Road is an area in town that's ripe for heavy development, and there's a lot of things to take into consideration with that, you know, the road being one, and a small town having a road budget for it. But it's very flat up there, they're very patent lots that are long, narrow lots. The only way to access them, the only way to access the land up there is basically make it look like, over by the airport or that.
Yeah, you're
So
gonna,
that's, so
it's gonna
that's,
subdivide.
I mean,
Yeah.
depending on your flavor, that's what it could look like up there. And, you know, the roads are, it's great that we wanna expand out all these directions in town area, but we're a town with limited resources, and we gotta consider the roads and how we're gonna maintain these roads, and what kind of staff we're gonna have.
That's all I'm
All
saying.
this
I'm
stuff.
not for or against anything, I'm just saying to just openly say, okay, here's 3 lots without really looking what's going on, I think is a mistake.
We've had this argument ad nauseam too, you know, creating a tax base, it's dependent on who moves to town, right?
Right.
You could have all these houses and maybe all these kids wanna go to McCann High School,
Yeah,
right? So then you're not gaining anything by developing them.
yeah, but the state pays for most of that. That's a fallacy that we're paying all this money, the state pays for
It
it.
still increases the school budget.
It does, just put them,
I'll find out what the overshadowing means, and this situation
I
will be
mean, I've
solved.
looked into what overshadowing means, but I mean, I think we just need to talk about it more.
I'll bring in an engineer in.
And one of the things that Act 250 did notice is the private road situation. That's one of the things that they addressed,
yeah.
where you can, it's gonna be limited at like 800 feet.
People that are coming and buying properties don't have kids right now.
No.
Okay, they're coming from the city, it's a second home, they're not
Yeah,
even
so that's
homesteaded
the
here.
other argument.
Even if they homestead, it doesn't matter because they make too much money, they don't even care.
So that's the other argument, Pete, when you guys are considering how to structure land
Yeah.
management in the
It's
future.
not gonna get.
How do you structure it? I mean, if we're gonna become a second home community, right, that are gonna pay the tax bases, how do you structure the land use plan
Well, I
that
think
appeals to people to actually do that?
I think we did it in our last zoning bylaw change.
Resources.
Because the idea is you wanna put in a private road for 2 lots on your 20-acre lot. Town ain't paying a penny for it.
Right.
And then it falls under Act 250.
Now you got 2 houses at $5,000 apiece taxes. What's it costing the town?
Well,
No, but when you wanna get
There could
into-
be issues with private roads ultimately that could fall back on the town.
How?
How? Okay. The
Emergency
guy that owns the
management.
road builds his house at the front of the road.
Can't get a fire truck up there.
He builds his house at the front, right? Then he sells 3-4 lots behind him. All of a sudden, he develops a problem with these lots behind him that are paying taxes to the town, and he says, I'm not maintaining the road anymore, and I'm not plowing the road.
Yeah, but who's that on?
It's gonna ultimately.
No, it ain't gonna be ultimately, it's on the landowner.
It is, but ultimately, it's gonna come back on the town, because those 4 or 5 people are paying taxes, and their road's not maintained.
So it's
the
a
cost-
lawsuit between them and
The
the
calls
guy
will
in
get
front.
louder and louder to make it a public road. This already happened, there's.
I don't care, my point is, as long as this town stands, you're pissed off with your 3 neighbors because you can't get out, that's a lawsuit between you and them. It's not got anything to do with the town doesn't have to touch
They're
it.
paying taxes to the town.
What if the guy dies?
That don't matter.
They're gonna wanna get, it's gonna matter
It
at some
would
point.
matter if
It's
they're all
gonna
in here
matter.
hollering at you.
It's gonna matter.
You think it's gonna matter?
It'll matter. Trust me, it'll ultimately matter.
I like good odds. I like good odds.
I'm gonna be here.
Research how Sparrow Road, research how Sparrow Drive became a public road. It's exactly what happened up there in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Didn't the
It's how it
state,
happened.
didn't
That's
the
what
state
happened.
make a new
Who-
law
welcome
that
to
said all
Alderwall.
private
We're still
roads have
fighting
to have road
issues.
agreements now, so that there's a group.
And he's making me
All the people
believe,
who live on
and
it
making me
maintain it.
believe.
What'd you say, Laura, I couldn't hear you.
So didn't the state within the past couple of years do a new law that people on private roads should have a road maintenance agreement?
You should
So
always
that the
find
people on the road
that.
all pay, and then it wouldn't fall back on the
You
town.
should
But
have
if you
a
look
legal-
at our zoning bylaws we passed, one of the stipulations is there has to be a place for the emergency vehicles to turn around.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so that was good. Whether or not the people in that group, right, say I wanna sell 3 lots of my kids. Whether or not we have an agreement, no, we fight all the time, me and my kids, right? Tomorrow I might not wanna let you drive through, I might put a log across the road.
Right,
Right, but to me, that's between us.
right.
And I don't see why,
So that was the whole concept that we were talking about behind planned unit developments. That wasn't like everyone's thinking, damn, there's gonna be condos in town. We were talking more about it for cluster development, for quote
family,
unquote compounding for families, right?
Yeah.
Where if you have 20 acres of land, instead of dividing it up 10 houses on 2 acres apiece and using up all the land, you could cluster those houses, you know, maybe on 2 of the acres and you could farm the other 18.
right?
Right, so that's all that really was. That's basically what we were talking about earlier with medieval development and how you say in Europe was, right? It's cluster development. That's really where they're pushing everybody to cluster stuff in the middle and don't touch the resources at all. That's why they're basically getting rid of private roads for fragmentation.
I understand, but I also know it's behind their thought to control all the resources.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could have that argument.
Whoever controls your resources controls the people.
Alright,
I'm not saying I'm for or against the situation, to Lisa's point, that there was more to these subdivisions than the AO coming in and saying, you have to do it. Because
No, I think-
my research said she was incorrect.
I'm pretty sure if it's 3 units, it needs a site plan.
It needs a site plan, and we voted it in, and it was wrong. So that was my fault.
I couldn't find that in bylaws though.
I did.
It's not right in the bylaws. It should be right in,
It should have been a site.
7.2. So we got 7.2.
Should have been a site, yeah.
You gotta get
No,
that.
I've been talking about 7.2 for 3 years.
How do you go so far over there?
Well, I'm not really bringing it up.
Maybe 4. I'm cheating. When you use 2 hands, that it is cheating. You gotta catch
I
up.
was when I was kind of.
alright, so I'm assuming you want more information
But then
on that.
Yes, because it doesn't make, it just, to me, it doesn't make sense why if it's 3, we just say the same thing Deb would have said if it's 2. Then what's the point in coming if that's our only job, so the same thing she's gonna do anyway.
It was something about how it's not 3 yet or something.
No, it's not
No,
more,
it's 3.
Well, no, it was 2, and then
And it
they
says.
brought up 3, and I said, wait a minute, it's 3, and then that said, you can't,
Don't
and
forget
then he
now-
said,
Don't forget now, guys, too, anytime there's 2, you can times every house by 2, right?
Right.
You can have accessory dwelling units with any piece of.
right, I understand that.
Well, you got the
They were
rule.
talking about separate houses,
So,
though.
That was what's in the play though.
Yeah, it's.
I thought this was all an overshadowing issue.
So, cause they don't start it all planned right now.
No?
To build anything.
I thought it was all an overshadowing issue.
But they came right in and said there'd be no 3 houses.
Eventually.
Right, and that's when I part of it said,
The loophole,
Right.
for right now, just
Right.
going one by one,
Right.
so that they don't have to have a site plan visit.
Yeah.
You know,
The overshadowing issue, by the state's basically saying it's back on the town, they're basically saying the town can go ahead and increase the
If
acreage.
you
Yeah.
call, right, that's
You call the state.
yeah, we can do that.
I did, I talked to 3 people at the Obama house, and she brought that.
Go see the town.
Yeah.
And they had to be attached.
It's out of our house.
Really?
Wow.
What is a septic system?
These are heads, 3.0 old that I talked to the heads and them.
Huh.
With that, what's the law? Yeah.
They're saying, they're saying in a nutshell that overshadowing is a town problem because you don't have enough acreage between your properties. That's essentially what they're saying.
Well,
Not
see,
that
all
we can
that's,
do anything
all
about it,
that's a
they still
change
control it
because
all.
in the
You don't
past,
know anything about septic tanks.
I don't really.
I'm just concerned for the like, I understand that the state has septic, but like if it's going to impinge upon someone else's private property, that they no longer can now, if they need to put a well on theirs, it's their land. I feel like they should have use of their land,
Right,
period.
right.
In the future, if their
Right.
grandchildren wanna build.
If
No,
you
I
plant
agree
an
with
apple-
that.
If you plant a really nice apple tree and it grows up after years,
You could do it
and the
in
branches go over to, onto my property, I have the right to cut those branches or take those apples, cause it's overshadowed on my property.
right.
You just don't want
The way the state is kind of talking like, you can't do that because
Yeah.
if it's overshadowing, they can do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but where are the regulations that you can't, nobody,
It's a
even in,
fuzzy-
nobody in this room, including myself or you,
What?
You.
Okay, me, yeah.
know what overshadowing means.
It's a
Yes,
gray
they
area.
do.
I know what it is, I just don't know what the law behind it is.
I don't know what
The actual
an
mathematics.
engineer is gonna tell you that means. That's why I wanna talk to
I
an
wanna add
engineer.
that.
Yeah, that's why you're gonna call them and say,
Is
hey
that
buddy.
something for the zoning board?
That's the
Is that
rule.
something, is
Well,
that,
absolutely.
is that topic something for the zoning board? If that, cause if
I'm
that
not
topic's,
sure.
and
I
I don't know
think
either.
I'd like to at least have this board look into it individually, so we can bring it on next
I mean, I
meeting
think
and
it's
see
something-
who it goes to.
I think it's definitely something like, I get where he's coming from, you know what I'm saying, but when you're almost handcuffed to like, even if we did make a decision, they're gonna do it anyway. You know what I'm saying, like, he's gonna put that septic in, he's gonna go to the state,
Yep.
and the state, he's gonna say, the
They said
septic
it's
guy's
okay.
gonna approve,
Yep.
and ultimately it's gonna bypass everybody, they're gonna put it in.
Yep.
So, but I think if we had stricter
Right.
zoning bylaws
Yes.
that prohibited further infringing on other people's
Because I think we
property,
can have stronger.
regardless if it's
Yeah.
overshadowed.
Right.
That's something I think that should be brought up and it should be researched, but I think that that's a zoning.
Might be.
thing. And I'm not, and I could be wrong.
We can start.
It might be something to talk
I mean, they
down
can,
about.
they can relate the conversation around, talking about acreage for lots and stuff.
But why, for 3 things, it has to have a site plan review. And
I mean,
that's
I'm
what they're
all
trying to do.
for it, everybody being able to do whatever they want with their property.
Oh, yeah, me
I'm
too.
all for it, but
Okay.
it can't affect another.
What?
I'll agree
And I
with
get
that.
And then the state sucks.
Hides in that gray
But
area.
I think we as a town can maybe fix future.
But, okay, but on the application for the permit,
Yep,
question 5, it says a plot plan must be drawn on the grid, which we got this,
yep.
this show everything.
Yep.
But it says it has to show a sketch of the property lines, the area of the lot, all existing and proposed buildings, the front rear side setbacks, which you just showed me, property lines, the water supply septic. That's the stuff that we got that I don't think we were told we weren't supposed to.
Yeah, she said we were supposed to
But
have
it's
it.
only from one building, and we were told, I think if I remember correctly, that it wasn't even on us, that it was supposed to be on Deb, but Deb came in here and said,
But
it's
it-
kinda
but-
on you, and it's kinda
My
like,
question
well,
is-
no, it's your bit, or no, it's mine.
Well, right, why is
Well,
it on the permit?
I don't
And
even think
question
it should
5,
be,
if it's
it
not.
shouldn't even be on us, I don't think.
Yeah.
I because it is specifically just one building.
I don't think.
So I think
yeah.
the zoning administrator has the right.
What one building?
What did we vote on?
Because the whole goal was, is that,
What
if
did we
I'm
vote
not
on?
mistaken, that this is, no, this
We
is
voted for
their
3 lots.
property that they currently have. They wanted to build here and leave this
They
20,
live here now.
They wanted 3 lots.
they just wanted to subdivide to another lot to make it 3. So
Right.
yes,
Here's
I mean,
the-
it was the
Here's
great,
Here's
it's the
what
great.
it is.
And in
Right,
order to
they-
do
so
that,
they
it has to have a
wanted-
site plan review.
Yeah, they were on like 2 something, and then they wanted, the kids wanted to build the house directly behind
It
it.
needed-
And then they were
it
gonna
needed a
do
site plan
20
review.
plus
Right.
behind them for future development, because ultimately that's where it's going. But I think if they were gonna go for the 2 or 3 lots, that, or 2 or 3 buildings, that's when it needed a site review.
Right.
So I think they only did the 1, so that they could bypass the site review.
I thought we voted in for 3.
3 lots.
Well, it turns to 3, but they were just trying to subdivide
The 2.
the 2.
Into 3.
But it ends up being 3.
Right. Again,
Shouldn't have happened.
I think it's
You
that
shouldn't have voted
it.
I'm just telling you. we
Again, I
shouldn't have
think they
voted.
should be able, honestly, if they wanna subdivide your own land, like so. I mean, who am I to tell you what the hell you can do with your property?
Until
it's just-
As
just
long as you follow the zoning bylaws in the town, the permitting process, the entire process.
Okay,
Just to
I'm
be
for
educated,
whatever you gotta do.
just to be educated, the board probably a year and a half ago, we were writing the zoning bylaws, and we actually changed that down to it was just supposed to be, 2, I believe. 1 or 2, and we changed it, but it never got finalized because we never had a town hall or anything to, the whole writing of the bylaws stopped.
but I wanna go back to what Pete's been saying, because I agree 100%. If what I'm doing on my land is affecting you, outside of running my chainsaw cutting firewood, right, cause then I don't really care. But if this overshadowing is affecting you, but we don't know yet, okay, then I agree with Pete 100%. Because what you do on your property should not infringe on my property rights. Okay, I agree with that, I'm all about property rights.
But we do know because we have the map from the engineer.
No, but we don't know what overshadowing means.
Oh, it's right on the map. It's-
Yeah.
You approved it. Once you
No,
approve this.
No, but what does it mean?
It means
It
that,
means
Okay,
that
you got a septic system, you got your distribution
Yeah.
of the fluids.
It's gotta have a certain-
And it spreads out over a particular area, and when you do the site plan for the septic system, the distribution goes, say, 50 feet in each direction, and makes a big circle. Well, if you're too close to somebody's property, that circle goes, the overshadowing goes onto his property. That means that if they're in a high water table situation,
Like what
You're-
we had last year, when everybody was pumping out their wells.
your
The
septic
static water
system,
table comes
Yeah.
up, and it's gonna flood.
that fluids, they can possibly go onto your land.
I know,
And
one
if
was.
you had a well there, it would,
That's what it means.
it,
Well, see, I don't know that question.
I'll get you the 3 names of the heads of the
Water
people like
table.
that.
what you wanna find out,
One
what's the
thing-
gallon?
But when that
I
static
know, I
water
wanna
table
find out
comes up,
from an engineer
it ain't got
what
nowhere
this
to go.
actually
I mean, You're
means.
pumping your well out for nothing, because you were pumping it out, and I thank God that I had it's secluded, the static water table, where my water was coming in my basement was the addition that they actually put in the back half of the house. So I was able to put sandbags with pool noodles cut, so it funneled all the water into my sump pump, and at that point, I used that industrial pump that I had and ran it for 2 straight days, just pumping water out of my basement nonstop for 2 days, like he had one in his well.
And I was
But
hoping
again, you're
to,
fighting a losing battle, because until until the water comes down, the table comes down, I don't care where you can do. You dumping it out, it's just coming back in.
Water
But
goes
you have to,
around.
yeah, but you have to. I mean,
But a lot of these systems
That's
now,
a- that's
a lot of
worse
these
to me than a
systems
flood.
now, it's all sand. And so that sand is filtrating, they're huge mound systems. I looked at the system a lot I'm doing up in
Yeah,
Riga.
but if that static water table grows where he's saying, shit's in his yard. I don't care, I don't care what you're gonna do.
Shit rolls down
It
there.
just is gonna, cause it's not even gonna have a chance to filter, it's just gonna come up. It's gonna come up through, it's not going down, Cause all that water's
That's right.
pushing it up.
That's the point of a mound is, your septic system holds the solids, and then the water runs out of the top of the septic system, goes into the mound system. I've got a 600-yard mound system, okay? And then it goes through all the pipes and everything, but that sand is filtrating all that soil. Just like I talked about earlier with the cesium that
Because
comes.
it's gonna filtrate down is what the point is. It's coming up through it, cause we just put, we put a crazy system in on, Current Highway. I mean, it cost us an absolute fortune. And it was cool to watch it put it in, and all these concrete pillars with all these this weird shit that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
It was engineered fine tooth and comb by John Duperson. We paid for it, trust me. So, but when they had an issue when they first tried to put it in the back half of the building, because it flooded and all the water came down from before and all the shit blew right through the manhole cover that was in the ground, because it ain't got nowhere to go. It had nowhere, it can't go anywhere.
Or
Because
the
it was just pumping in. So then they had to run it to the front of the building and let it feed the other way, because there was a natural spring that was running down through and the water was pumping. That's why all
You can't filter
plant
the amount of water that was pouring in just to the village here last
It
summer.
was-
I mean, I was pumping 10, 15 feet of water out of my well and then fill up in 20 seconds. It was pouring
All I'm
in
saying
for
is I
4
want,
days.
I
It
wanna
was
talk to
it
an
was-
engineer,
just below my panel.
because I don't think
I
anybody.
think that honestly, we should make a recommendation to the zoning board that they revisit the zoning bylaws.
They
and
don't,
reference-
they have nothing to do with design.
Right, it's the planning commission.
It's
No,
us.
but they still can have, in terms of overshadowing. I'm not talking about the actual septic.
We would be the ones
Yeah,
that
well, the ZBA
this-
only,
enforces, or issues that come up that, well, this board is the one that makes zoning
Right.
bylaws.
right,
This
This
is
is
what I was
the board.
talking about. I wasn't sure if it was a zoning board
It's us.
issue, so that.
We're planning
It's
zoning.
something that we need to revisit.
Well, yeah.
And for one of our bylaws, to make sure that moving forward, we don't have, that overshadowing is not only defined, but taken care of moving forward.
Yeah.
I
Because
agree.
we ultimately need a definition, and that definition needs to come not just from me saying, well, this, or from him saying, you know, hey, overshadowing is blah, blah, blah. It needs to come from,
Like Jim was saying,
either an
this
engineer
is gonna be
or-
something we're gonna run into again,
yeah.
not just.
Or
this
just,
issue.
no, it was, not because they're coming back.
so if we go back a half hour ago and I said, sure, I'm downhill, and he said, no, that's what we decided.
So this very issue was addressed in 2009. We weren't
Hey,
calling-
Dave, there are very few things I'm ever gonna agree with you on.
We weren't calling it overshadowing
I don't
in
understand why.
2009, but the situation was
Because
partially addressed when we
just
went
on
from
two
one
sides,
acre.
different
So,
sides of the street.
You
Yes,
think
we
we're,
are.
alright,
2009,
We're not-
1 acre to 2 acres was to partially address the situation.
Kurt, can I just hear what Kurt has to say?
On the agenda,
Okay, I wanna hear what Kurt's saying though,
In 2009, the town went from 1 acre to 2 acres.
yes,
for that
And it was to
purpose.
partially address that issue. You're never gonna address it in the village. It's just not gonna
I
happen.
mean, you can't address what is currently exists.
The
but
whole village is
for-
overshadowed.
For future, I know, what's overshadowed now is overshadowed, but for future development,
yes.
That's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
that's something you can address, but really the only way to address it, I think, is to increase acreage.
Did we not enforce that up in Oklahoma too?
no.
no,
Not to go to 2 acre lots, I thought we did.
no, you can, it's already approved building lots from 1970s, 60s. Patton's first development.
I mean, there's a lot of houses right here in the village that sit on just over half an acre.
I mean,
Oh,
what is, what exists, exists.
No, I'm just saying, I have a piece of land that sits under an acre, under 2, well, under 2 acres.
Just all.
That I can't build on, for anybody that's listening.
Bill on it.
But anyway.
You can add on,
Because what other
No.
purpose was it for
No.
the three, I don't know, what was the purpose for the us making a decision for the division of three lots? What was the purpose of going to us to do the three lots?
just ask your house, why can't you?
I was a little confused on the whole situation.
And I read that-
I assumed it was, it had something to do with the
No, it's been there all the
unit.
time.
But you said not to consider the buildings. So why when you're subdividing, just subdividing the land, two different sides, three, we decide that we have to make the same decisions for
It's gonna be a little
It
pit.
makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I got it. Right.
I feel like there's a problem with that.
JP would have never fit
Or
that.
lack of a bylaw.
He was 9 and a half pounds.
That's not 22.
Because I've been combing over it trying to find.
Flood zone.
There's a problem with the
Joe,
bylaw,
10.4.
working on the bylaw.
Or in any case,
I almost had.
You know my situation now.
There you go.
Maybe it had to do with that.
Maybe.
Salty means that they came in for like, what would be the full price per house? That's why I would have had from the road all the way to the thing, and that would have been good, it would have mattered.
No, I think this is a good idea to revisit this and sort it out on, this is the board to sort it out.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we put that on the next meeting,
Yeah.
the next agenda, with, overshadowing,
Okay.
that's tough.
Sorry for something else.
No, I think
glad
it's
you did.
important.
It's bothering me.
Again,
I'm glad you
I'm all
did.
for people doing whatever,
Thank you.
but again, it shouldn't affect.
You're right, you're right.
You gotta have.
You're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
If you wanna do something, find where.
you have a better way of getting across.
And I'm not-
Stand out like you need. Anything I say.
If you're talking, there's an argument to be had with that. If
There
you're
is,
trying,
but I
if you're
get
trying to base the house, if you're trying to base the town on second homers, all right, if you had, and on Dan's here, we're gonna stand straight up, and I'm not saying I agree with this, but you'd be more likely to sell lots if they're probably at 10 acres.
At what?
Not 10 acres, because people isolate them.
Right, right. I agree with that.
Alright,
No, there's a lot to be talked about in the structure of what you want to do.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is this the,
Second.
is this the flood zone talk?
No, we already had that, Dan.
I
I have a question.
We had that.
Oh, you
Oh,
don't,
right,
sorry.
Phil.
Yeah.
My
You
bad.
guys made comments about, maybe that the, emergency management should do something, maybe for that, so I have a meeting coming up, August 13th. I wrote down, when the power's out, what's done to get any, generator or help from the state. And I said, planning board is asking what the state would do to help getting, and not the, everyone. So I will be bringing that to our meeting
Okay.
when we go up.
Perfect.
I'll continue
Yeah,
to,
'cause
I'll
right now we
continue
only
to do
have
some
this building,
research.
right?
Pardon?
Because right now, we really only have this building.
Right.
And it's a summer and a winter problem.
Yeah.
Winter problem's a real problem, I think.
But there was a big thing that they said, you want to do what's coming up.
And one of the things I didn't bring up, a lot of people's septics need power to pump the septic out.
Yeah.
I didn't bring that up because I just thought of it while we were talking.
I don't know if any,
Mine
you know,
just
a Neil
flows.
Glassman.
Gravity,
I flush my toilet into the tank, it goes, and from the tank right out to my.
so you're gravity.
To the river.
But a lot of people, especially with mountain systems, it's gotta be pumped.
That's objective pump.
Yeah,
I had a Title V done, I didn't want to come into that, so.
Power's important.
I made a motion to adjourn, seconded by Dan.
all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.